So the topic for class tonight is intention, no time to lose. And the meditation we just did is one that I adapted from two teachers. The first is Tara Brach, who's one of the foremost teachers in American Buddhism today. And the other is Stephen Levine. And he's also a meditation teacher and an author who writes principally on the subject of death and dying. We'll get to Stephen Levine in a minute, but I wanted to start with a quote from Tara Brach about intentionality, and that's largely what our meditation was about. She says, "It is helpful to start your meditation with a reflection on what matters to you. Some meditation students bring to mind an all-encompassing aspiration, while others focus on a particular intention for the sitting for the day. For instance, you might connect with your aspiration for loving fully, or decide to embrace whatever difficult emotions arise during your practice. You might aspire to the truth, to really see what is happening and what is real, or you might have the particular intention to recognize and let go of thoughts. When you begin by asking your heart what matters, you are already on the path of presence." When you begin by asking your heart what matters, you are already on the path of presence. So there Tara Brach is talking about forming an intention in our meditation practice. And also, if we begin the day with meditation in the morning, she's also referring to setting an intention for today, beginning with our meditation and then extending into what is often called post-meditation or life. But Tara Brach, in her Dharma talks and also throughout her books, spends a great deal of time on the subject of examining our hitherto unexamined intentions in everyday life and in our various interactions. I mean, most of the time we don't even know that we're guided by certain buried intentions. So for example, I might feel an impulse to lash out at somebody. I mean, that's obviously unskillful. It's not a good habit to get into. It leads to bad karma, bad consequences down the line. But nonetheless, it is a very strong impulse. But working with intention, I can invoke what Tara Brach calls the sacred pause. And I might have to remove myself from the situation in order to do this, but I can begin to inquire into what is my intention here. I feel like I've been provoked into anger. What is my intention here? What is my intention here? What is my intention here? Well, at the most base and gross level of intention, my intention is to slug somebody, right? But I can go deeper than that. What is my intention? What is my intention? And we ask this in the same way that a Zen student might ask a koan. You know, I think we all know the koan was the sound of one hand clapping. But there are other, more basic koans very directly related to a situation that a student might encounter. I knew a Zen student who was particularly, she was facing a certain situation in her life, and she had no idea what to do about it. It was extremely complicated. And she went to her roshi. The roshi is the teacher, and she, divulged the scenario. And the roshi gave her a koan, and it was simply, what should I do? And she was supposed to just sit with that and ask herself, what should I do? What should I do? And likewise, we're sitting here with the intention, what is my intention here? What is my intention here? And we wait, we see the variety of answers come to the surface. And when we get to the purest answer, it will come to the surface. A lot blossom like the proverbial lotus on the bog. And, it's not that we're supposed to just club a certain answer over the head and bring it back to our cave. We're just supposed to be very still and patient. In the Tao Te Ching, they say, do you have the great patience to wait until your mud settles and the answer arises of its own? So, I want to lash out at somebody, I want to slug somebody. What is there a deeper intention here? What is my intention here? What is my intention here? And at a deeper level of intention, we might say, I want justice. I want justice. I saw something happen that I think is very wrong. I want justice. Okay, is there an even deeper level of intention there in this kind of Russian doll of intention? And we might find that actually behind this rage, there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of grief when I see this thing that's stimulated my rage. Deep down, I feel a lot of sadness over it. Okay, well that's interesting. Can we embrace that sadness? Can we show compassion toward that sadness and begin to alleviate suffering from that level? And as we work at that level, the suffering dissipates. And then, if and when it's appropriate to address the situation that provoked us in the first place, we can come from a much more cruel-headed, a much kinder, a much wiser, a much more compassionate level, which is far more effective than just injecting more aggression and more hostility into an already volatile situation. So that's one example. Another example might be, we find we're in a situation where we really want a certain person to like us. We want their approval. We want their acceptance. And we're like standing outside and looking at ourselves like, what am I, 12? Oh my God. And we don't have to judge ourselves for this. Even people whom we see as the most evolved and most enlightened beings do have very base impulses too. It's just they don't really hang out at that level of intention. But what happens when we do operate from that level of intention? We become greedy, we become fawning, we become graspy. In Buddhist terms, we solidify an egoic sense of self that's just going to lead to more and more suffering and more unskillful behavior. Think of Willy Loman, in Death of the Salesman. He tells his sons, be well liked, and you shall want for nothing else. And he never leaves that level of intentionality. And, what happens to him? He becomes all schmaltz, he becomes this obsequious character who's always leading with his glad hand and everything like that, and he alienates people with that very desperate behavior until he becomes this shell of a man and his life takes a very, very tragic course. But we don't have to hang out at that level of intention. We can go deeper than that. So what is my intention here? What is my intention here? Or maybe a better question is one that my teacher Martin asks his students to ask themselves, which is, what do I really want here? What do I really want here? Going very deep with that question. And there might be many things we want from this person, but there might be one thing is, I want a sense of belonging. I want a sense of friendship. I want a sense of connection. Okay, well, that's a deeper level of intention. What do I really want here? What is my intention here? What do I really want here? What is my intention here? And then we might think, have I really been giving myself that friendship? Have I really been attending to my own experience? Have I really been showing myself compassion? Come to think of it, no, I really haven't. And how about we work on that for a while and, giving ourselves that sense of belonging and that sense of compassion. And then, if we do work on that long enough and go deep enough with that through the three factors of concentration, meditation, and compassion, then when an opportunity for friendship or connection arises, I'm coming from a far less desperate place. I'm coming from a place of greater self-assurance, greater self-worth. And, if we hit it off, great. If we don't, I'm no worse off than before, and actually I'm better off than before, because I now have my own friendship. So those are two examples. Tara Brach enlarges on this discussion of intentionality by saying, like peeling back the layers of an onion, we may unfold layers of more immediate wants and fears before we arrive at the source, the light of pure intention. As we inhabit this purer intention, it becomes the compass of the heart that guides us home. As we inhabit this purer intention, it becomes the compass of the heart that guides us home. So again, through this process of meditation, compassion, and concentration, we can invoke the sacred pause and come to a purer intention. But here's the problem. How often do we do that? How often do we even realize that there's any intention behind the things we do? How often do we look at how and why we do the things we do? So often we're on automatic pilot, and it takes a real bombshell experience for us to take stock and to investigate our actions, our experience, and our intention. And that's where facing our own mortality comes in really handy. Stephen Levine, coming back to Stephen Levine, he and his wife Andrea actually have an organization where they work with the terminally ill. And they work very intensively with the terminally ill and really listen to them, really listen to their stories and their intentions and aspirations. And people will say, doesn't that get depressing? I mean, you're with all these people who are at death's door, are going to kick it at any minute. And they say more often than not, no. Because as they're, visiting with these people are suddenly staring death in the face, and they're stripped of their pretensions, and their intentions become a lot clearer, a lot more wholehearted, a lot sharper, and a lot more luminous. And it's funny because while I was preparing my notes for this talk, I was writing at that cafe I was telling you about, and there's this hipster barista guy who works there, and he seems to only play doo-wop and country and western. And he's a really, really sweet guy. We talk and kind of become friends, and he told me, this is my day job, but what I really want to do is get my death metal band off the ground. I was like, oh, I never knew that doo-wop was so inspiring to a death metal band, but apparently so. And so he was playing one of his country songs, and I'm making my notes, and all of a sudden I hear one of the country singers go, "Life gets mighty precious when there's less of it to lose." I was like, So, Stephen Levine has a wonderful book called A Year to Live, where he actually asks us to live a year of our life as if it were our last year on earth. And he does it specifically so that we can see, what would my intentions be? What would my orientation toward life be? How would I treat people? It's an amazing book. I put it on the list. Read it. Do it. It's a very intense process. And, it's something that came to mind recently. I want to read you something. It's something that I actually posted on Facebook. It's something I wrote. and I wanted